Training camp is finally here, and if you're a true Raiders fan, this is the moment you've been waiting for. No more waiting around, no more speculating. Actual football is back, and that feeling of excitement, it's different after months of breaking down rosters, analyzing moves, and imagining how the new coaching staff might shape this team. We've finally arrived at the start of the grind. The rookies are reporting today, July 17th, and with the veterans set to join them on the 22nd, it's time for the Las Vegas Raiders to begin putting all the pieces together for what promises to be a defining season under a fresh regime. The air feels different when football is back. It's not just about plays and drills, it's about hope, competition, and new beginnings. For Raiders fans, it's also about pride. And with the team deciding to stay in Henderson, Nevada for camp, rather than returning to Napa, it says a lot about the direction the organization is taking. A lot of people were speculating that a move back to Napa might be on the horizon. But from everything that's come out, the decision to stay in Henderson makes sense. The old fields in Napa apparently require significant upgrades to meet current NFL standards. And when you're trying to build team chemistry, especially under a new coaching staff, it makes more sense to be somewhere that offers continuity and efficiency. Pete Carroll, the new leader of this squad, seems to believe that staying local will help the group bond better. There's a lot of logic behind that, being in your own facilities, close to your resources, minimizing travel, and focusing on the task at hand. It's not a flashy move, but it's a smart one. And while we're talking about smart decisions, there's a buzz building around several rookies at this year's training camp. These are the players who could shape the future of the franchise. You've got top draft picks, undrafted gems, international prospects. It's a mix of talent, potential, and hunger. And make no mistake, this camp isn't just about preparing for the preseason, it's about setting the tone for the year, and that tone starts now. Let's start with a name that's been getting a lot of attention lately, Charles Grant. This guy was a beast in college, finishing last season with the highest Pro Football Focus grade of any offensive tackle in the country, over 91. He's got raw tools, big upside, and a chance to be something special. But development is going to be key. He's not ready yet to step into a full-time NFL role, at least not from what we've seen so far. But he's the kind of player who could change the future of the offensive line. What makes his situation even more interesting is how it ties into Colton Miller's potential contract extension. If Grant impresses during camp and shows he can be that guy, the front office might think twice about a pricey extension for Miller. That's the ripple effect of having a promising rookie. It impacts everything. And speaking of interesting stories, you've got Laki Tassi, brought in through the International Pathway program. He was originally a defensive tackle, but the Raiders are transitioning him to offensive guard. That's a big switch, but he's a massive athletic kid with a ton of upside. He's currently down in Australia with Jackson Powers Johnson doing football work. And the word is that both of them are looking like monsters out there. Laki's development will be something to keep an eye on, because players like him, those that you can keep on the practice squad without costing a roster spot, are low-risk, higher-word assets. He's still a long shot to make the 53-man roster, but don't sleep on him just yet. Another name you've got to pay attention to is Cody Lindenberg, 7th-round pick linebacker, and a guy who's already made noise during minicamp and OTA letters by being handed the green dot, the signal caller on defense. That's not something a coaching staff gives out lightly. He's in the mix now, and his emergence could impact the futures of other players like Tommy Eichenberg. It's possible only one of them makes the final cut. The Raiders already have veterans like Jermaine Pratt, Landon Roberts, and Dion White locked into roles, so that final linebacker spot might come down to Lindenberg versus Eichenberg. If Lindenberg continues to impress, he could push Eichenberg off the roster and open the door for someone like Amari Gaynor. And then there's Joyner, an undrafted pass rusher out of Minnesota. Don't let the lack of buzz fool you. This guy has potential. He reminds some people of Malcolm Kuntz, not quite the same level of athleticism, but he's got that same motor and ability to get after the quarterback. Joyner probably won't play much against the run, but as a situational edge rusher, he might carve out a role. He had a 5th-round grade on several draft boards, and out of all the undrafted players, he might be the one with the best chance to sneak onto the final roster. It'll be close. He's probably player 53 or 54. Right now, right on the edge. Now let's talk about one of the most intriguing players in the whole camp, Tommy Mellott. Quarterback, wide receiver, special team, or whatever you need, he'll do it. He's a straight-up football player. The kind of guy who would snap the ball, catch the pass, and make the tackle all on the same play if you ask him to. You can tell just by watching him that he lives for this game. He's an incredible athlete, and the big question now is how are the Raiders going to use him? Is he a slot receiver, a gadget guy, a return specialist? Because if it comes down to him or someone like Dylan Laub, that's going to be a tough call. But if it's special teams alone, Malott might have the edge. All of these guys are fighting for spots, and every snap at training camp is going to matter. But let's jump into the top 5 rookies that everyone should be watching, starting with Tonka Hemingway. Drafted in the 4th round, Hemingway is in a tight competition with 6th rounder J.J. Pegas. They're both tweeners guys who can line up inside or out, and both are good athletes. From what's been said by people close to the team, they're on the right track, but not quite ready to be reliable contributors every week. They've got the right attitude, they've got the tools, but development is going to be crucial over the next few weeks. Then there's Jack Beck. Taken in the 2nd round, expectations were high, but so far this offseason he's been outshined by 4th rounder Dante Thornton Jr. Still, Beck is solid. He blocks well, he's reliable, and he runs clean routes. He's not flashy, but he's efficient. And just like with Charles Grant and Colton Miller, Beck's performance could have ripple effects. If he looks like a real asset, it might impact whether or not the Raiders feel like they need to extend Jakobi Meyers. When you're building a roster, especially under a new regime, every decision is connected, and young guys stepping up give you flexibility you wouldn't otherwise have. Darian Porter is another name that keeps popping up. He's got a shot to earn a starting role on the outside this season, and his story is one worth rooting for. He wasn't a high-profile prospect, but he's got the size, the speed, and the intelligence to develop into a real asset. Pete Carroll has a history of developing cornerbacks with his traits, and Porter is a sponge. He absorbs everything. He's currently locked in a fierce competition with guys like Eric Stokes and Jacorian Bennett. That battle could end up being one of the highlights of training camp. And now we get to Dante Thornton Jr., a name that keeps gaining momentum. If you haven't seen the full interview with him, it's worth checking out. The guy has charisma, confidence, and freakish athleticism. He led college football last year with over 25 yards per catch, and has drawn comparisons to Martavis Bryant, DK Metcalf, and even Calvin Johnson. Not necessarily in skill, but in pure athletic profile. ESPN recently listed him as the Raiders' biggest surprise of the offseason, and the hype is building. Training camp is his time to prove that all that potential translates into production. But no one, and I mean no one, is being watched more closely than Ashton Jeanty. Taken 6th overall, there's a case to be made that he should have won the Heisman last season. He's the most exciting running back prospect since Saquon Barkley or Ezekiel Elliott. And everything about him screams game changer. He's explosive, he's physical, he catches passes like a wide receiver, and he's got that edge. Pete Carroll has mentioned a running back by common approach, but let's be honest. If Jeanty is as good as advertised, he's not coming off the field. He has the potential to be a top 5 back in the league if used right. And how the Raiders deploy him during camp will say a lot about how they plan to shape the offense. That's just scratching the surface. From veterans trying to hold on to their spots to rookies fighting to make an impression, this training camp is loaded with storylines. And while not every rookie will make the final roster, every rep matters. These moments shape the roster, build chemistry, and define leadership. Whether it's the undrafted kid from a small school or the top pick expected to change the game, training camp is where it all starts. And while the spotlight naturally shines on the high draft picks, there's something about these camp battles that reveals the heart of a team. The grind of camp, the heat, the repetition, the mental and physical pressure, it's where real players rise and pretenders fade. And for a team like the Raiders in transition with a new coaching staff and a new front office philosophy, every inch of progress matters. Pete Carroll knows how to get the best out of his players, but that starts with building a foundation. And this camp is that foundation. Let's take a moment to focus on the guys who didn't quite make the top 10 list of rookies to watch but are still firmly in the mix. These honorable mentions might not be getting the same attention, but they're grinding just as hard and could be sneaky contributors when the season begins. Quarterback Cam Miller is one of them. He's going toe-to-toe with Aidan O'Connell for the backup role behind Geno Smith. That's not just a developmental competition, it's a serious one. If Miller shines in camp and during preseason reps, that QB room might look different. By the time we get to week 1, Miller has shown flashes of leadership and has that dual threat skill set that modern offenses crave. He'll need to clean up his accuracy and decision-making under pressure. But there's definitely something there. Mello Dotson is another guy who came out of rookie minicamp as one of the biggest winners. A versatile defensive back with great instincts and a nose for the football, Dotson made a name for himself with some key pass breakups. and a couple of flashy plays in coverage. His stock rose fast during OTA letters, and he's entering training camp with serious momentum. He's the type of player who might not start, but could earn a core special teams role and contribute as a depth piece in the secondary. Then you've got J.J. Pegas, the 6th rounder out of Ole Miss. He's a classic tweener who can play defensive end or slide inside on passing downs. Pegas has the motor and build you love in a rotational guy. But like Tonka Hemingway, he needs to polish his technique. He's shown flashes, and he'll have every chance to carve out a role, especially if the coaching staff continues to rotate defensive linemen as aggressively as Carroll has done in the past. Anthony Tank Booker is a name that immediately jumps out just because of his sheer size, 6 foot for over 350 pounds. He's a space eater, and while he went undrafted, he's got a real shot to make the roster. As a depth option on the interior line, there are some durability concerns, and his conditioning needs improvement, but when he's on, he's hard to move. With Christian Wilkins being eased into things and long-term depth needed at the position, Tank might be the kind of guy who sneaks onto the roster simply because there's no one else quite like him. And let's not forget Caleb Rogers, a 3rd round pick who's quickly become one of the most well-liked players in the locker room. He's known for his energy, his leadership, and the way he brings people together. Multiple veterans have described him as a dad on the field, steady, supportive, and always cracking jokes, but focused when it matters. He's not an instant starter, but he's got versatility on the line, and coaches love having guys like him around. He might not make headlines in training camp, but his presence will absolutely be felt. All of these stories are building toward one thing: competition. This Raiders team is not only trying to improve its record, they're trying to reset the culture. Pete Carroll was brought in not just to coach, but to instill accountability, toughness, and belief. Every drill, every practice rep is an audition, not just for a job, but for a role in that new culture. And this year, the roster doesn't have many guaranteed spots. If you're not performing, someone else is waiting right behind you. That's what makes camp so fascinating. You've got the veterans trying to prove they still belong. Guys like Jacoby Myers, Colton Miller, and others know that younger, cheaper players are nipping at their heels. And then you've got second-year players who are trying to avoid the dreaded sophomore slump. Some of them didn't make the top 10 list because they're technically not rookies anymore. But let's be real, they're just as important. The likes of Trey Tucker, Byron Young, and Aidan O'Connell have everything to prove. They showed flashes last year, but flashes don't earn contracts. Consistency does. And you can't ignore the coaching side of things. This is Pete Carroll's first camp with the team, and his fingerprints are already all over it. Practices are fast-paced, competitive, and filled with energy. Carroll is known for encouraging trash talk, physicality, and an almost college-like atmosphere. At times, that environment favors hungry players. It favors grinders. And it could be exactly what this team needs. Of course, while most of the camp talk is about who's going to step up, there are also lingering questions about who might be on the way out. Every camp brings surprises: veterans getting cut, rookies winning starting jobs, last-minute trades. The Raiders have a new GM calling the shots and a head coach who isn't afraid to make bold moves. That means no one should feel safe. If a 6th-round rookie outperforms a $10 million veteran, it's not hard to see who wins that battle under this new regime. And as we start to see pads come on and contact increase, that's when we'll really learn who's ready for the next level. There's a massive difference between being a good player in shorts and showing out when the intensity picks up. For a lot of these rookies, this will be their first taste of level physicality. The speed, the size, the technique, it's all different. And how they respond will say a lot about whether they'll stick around. The fans are also watching closely. Raider Nation has always had a deep love for the underdog, and the way this fanbase gets behind young players is special. Social media is already buzzing with clips, interviews, and camp highlights. Every big play in camp turns into a conversation about depth charts and potential. That passion is what makes this team's culture so unique. It's not just about wins, it's about identity. And right now the team is trying to forge a new one. Take Ashton Jenney for example. We've already talked about him being the most anticipated rookie. But that spotlight comes with pressure. Being a top 6 pick and a Heisman caliber player in college means expectations are sky high. Can he meet them? Can he be the engine of the offense? The way Pete Carroll talks about him suggests that the plan is to ease him in through committee touches. But anyone who's seen this kid run knows he's not the type to sit quietly in a rotation. If he proves to be the real deal during camp, the Raiders might have no choice but to give him the keys. And there's more to Jenney than just the athleticism. He's smart, mature, and driven. Those traits matter during camp. When the days get long and the body starts to hurt, the guys who love football rise to the top. Genty lives and breathes the game, and that could be the edge that turns him from a great prospect into a franchise cornerstone. Every carry, every route, every rep-in pass protection is a chance to show that he's more than just hype. But he's not the only one with something to prove. Dante Thornton Jr. comes into camp with big expectations. After a college career filled with highlight reel catches and jaw-dropping athleticism, comparisons to DK Metcalf and Martavis Bryant aren't thrown around lightly. He's raw sure, but if he can learn the playbook, clean up his route running, and show he can win off the line against press coverage, he might be the Raiders' breakout star. He's got a real chance to become a vertical threat in this offense, and if he clicks with Geno Smith early, look out. Same goes for Darian Porter. We've mentioned how much Pete Carroll values cornerbacks with his profile: long, fast, smart, and Porter fits that mold perfectly. He's battling with established names like Eric Stokes and Jacorian Bennett, but don't count him out. His instincts are sharp, and he's already shown that he can hang with bigger receivers. If he holds his own in onions and makes plays in team periods, he could force his way onto the field sooner than expected. Jack Beck is another name that can't be overlooked. He's solid across the board and fits perfectly in a system that values toughness and reliability. He might not wow you with speed, but he makes the catch, does the dirty work as a blocker, and knows how to get open. If the Raiders decide to move on from a big contract like Jacoby Myers, it could be because Beck makes that move possible. He's cheaper, younger, and ready to prove he belongs. Tonka Hemingway brings versatility to the defensive line, and while he's still raw, he has all the tools. He can line up inside or outside, which gives him flexibility and difference of packages. If he can show consistency, he'll be in the rotation. If not, he could be one of those guys who spends a year developing and comes on strong later. Either way, his development is worth monitoring, but the truth is every name mentioned matters. Every snap counts. This isn't just a training camp, it's the beginning of a new chapter for the Raiders, one built on youth, energy, and competition. One led by a coach who has proven he can build contenders from the ground up. The days of leaning on old reputations are over. This roster is being built on who performs now, not who performed 2 years ago. So as camp kicks into full gear, expect the unexpected. Young stars will emerge, veterans will be pushed, depth charts will shift, and through it all, the identity of this new-look Raiders team will begin to take shape. It won't be decided in one practice or one preseason game. It'll be the culmination of weeks of sweat, grind, and execution, and by the time week 1 rolls around, we'll know exactly which players answered the call and which ones got left behind. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Las Vegas Raiders. And don't be shy, drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The NFL rumor mill is in full swing, and if the whispers coming out of Las Vegas have any truth to them, the league could be on the brink of a seismic shift.